Welcome to the playground of potential. I'm Matt the Poet, and this is my playground. It's been a while since I made a video, so I was happy when I got a transmission this morning during one of my breath works that inspired me to come and make this video right here. And the transmission was on thriving versus surviving. Now, it's so easy in our society to be in survival mode. You know, we work jobs that are just simply unfulfilling because they put food on the table and they pay the rent. You know, I've heard this acronym for job that I've always felt was appropriate. And it says just over broke. Yeah, I've spent much of my life just over broke working jobs that I didn't like. Or just weren't fulfilling, you know? I mean, obviously you can bring whatever energy you bring to the table to any job that you go to. But ultimately, if it's not fulfilling some deeper purpose or bringing you more in touch with who you are and who you want to be, then it's probably not the job for you, you know? We eat foods that are fast and convenient, you know? Packed full of macronutrients, which is basically just saying it's full of fat and carbs and protein maybe, but lacking in actual nutrition, micronutrients and such. And when we actually start eating these things that, nurture the deeper levels of our being, we find less cases of cancer and these other sorts of ailments that can occur because we're eating shit, basically. And then also we find ourselves in survival mode when it comes to our emotions. You know, we find ourselves evading our emotions through different escape mechanisms like alcohol or pornography or television or other media. You know, it's so easy to binge watch some sort of show on any of the streaming platforms. But even in the word binge, you know, there's this tinge of unhealthiness, this thing of like, oh, I'm overloading on this thing that's gonna allow me to escape the reality of my life. And the reality of my life is that I'm in survival mode, not thriving. Whereas it is our natural state as human beings to thrive, you know? You look around you in the natural kingdom, animals, yeah, they're in survival mode, but they are themselves they are ultimately themselves completely. And that's what it is to thrive, is to be fully yourself, be fulfilled within yourself. And animals do it without trying, you know. We have to try a little harder because we think our way out of thriving. And also we have some constructs within society that ask us to be in survival mode rather than thriving. So I want to explore 3 ways of living with greater purpose, okay? Finding that purpose that will fulfill you, you know? The first of which is to look at your life and look at how you were when you were a kid. We come into our lives being the most ourselves that we've ever been. You know, like you look at a kindergarten class, they have no other choice but to be themselves. Just like, I don't want to compare kids to animals, but just like animals are just themselves, you know, like we come into the world ourselves completely, you know? And it's society and different, aspects of that sort of tell us where we should fit in and you know, adolescence does a number on us in regards to like trying to fit into the collective, you know. While there's a purpose and a place for that, ultimately we want to be thriving, which means being the most ourselves as possible. So we can look at the things we loved doing as a kid, you know, as a template to sort of guide us into the direction of what we, will bring us to life. In my life, one of the big things was writing, and I knew that at the age of 12. I would tell stories with my friends at sleepovers. We would spend all night telling each other stories, and crafting these, mystical worlds or whatnot. And yeah, it brought me to life. It was something beautiful that I could be a part of. And then life went on, and I was like, oh, I have to make money. And I went through school and went all these other directions in regards to like where I put my focus. But I always knew it was writing, like I always knew that was a part of me that I wanted to fulfill, and that actually brought me to life, So I highly recommend checking out, reflecting upon where you were as a kid, and looking there for guidance as to how to thrive as an adult. Next place to look, if you're looking for guidance, is the tarot. Tarot is this archetypal space, that can really show us different archetypal energies of being human. And one of the more basic ways that they do that is through the suits of the tarot. Now, there's 4 suits in a playing card deck, and that's mimicking the 4 suits of the tarot. You have your pentacles, you have your cups, you have the swords, and you have the wands, okay? But each of these are actually a reflection of a different dimension of human life. So you have the pentacles, which are the physical life. You have the cups, which are the emotional life. You have the swords, which are the mental life, and the wands, which are the spiritual life, okay? So I suggest you look into these different dimensions of human existence, because all 4 of these dimensions we experience on very visceral levels throughout our lives, and ultimately look for the gifts that you have in these different areas. Maybe you're physically gifted. Maybe you're gifted with pentacles. And there's a place where you can be maybe a yoga instructor, or a sports are where you excel, or perhaps you're maybe more in the cups arena where you're more emotionally intelligent. And you might be able to help others with their own emotions. You might be more mentally gifted in the swords arena, and you might be good at problem solving. You might be great at science or math, these areas. Or finally, you might be more wand inclined, where you're deeply connected to the divine and the spiritual experience of life, and you can help people either through religion or through spiritual practices. So that's a wonderful place to look as well. And then lastly, I want to say that we can look at the places that bring us true fulfillment and joy. No matter where you are in your life at this moment in time, whether you're depressed or really struggling with life as it is, life is full of ebbs and flows, and there was a time where you were at a happier and more fulfilled state. And I suggest looking at that place and maybe looking for clues there. What were you doing that was making you fulfilled? Did you have purpose at that moment in time? What was that purpose? This is a great way to find what we want to do with our life, because if we're not happy or fulfilled, and I'm not talking about pleasure, like pleasure is momentary. Pleasure you can find in, the bottom of a bottle, you can find it on a screen. Pleasure is a thing that is cheap and easy, and it's not sustainable because it's tied directly to the dopamine cycle, and it's that's not a space that can be tapped regularly without being depleted, and it'll send you on this cycle of ups and downs. What you're looking for is fulfillment, where you go beyond the cycle of up and down, where you're able to fulfill yourself through purpose, through finding what brings you to life, passion. These are the areas that we want to build our life upon. You can't build it on pleasure. It's too fleeting. It's too superficial. So those are some of my suggestions. I hope we can all find our way into a thriving state. If you need any help with that, please reach out to me at playgroundofpotential@gmail.com. We can talk about doing one-on-one sessions, what I call self-mastery sessions, where I help guide people towards that place of thriving and, instead of just surviving. So, I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. There'll be much more content coming from here on in. I'm, breaking back into the video making world, and I'm happy to do so. Excited to do so. And maybe I'll do a video on why I broke away from that for a little while, and I think there's some useful lessons in that, but more on that later. Until next time, peace.